You're listening to the Overfunctioning Podcast Chat Sessions, connecting leadership concepts and local leaders.
Welcome, friends. You are listening to the Overfunctioning Podcast Chat Sessions, and I am Alex McMahon, and I'm today with Kemp Boyd.
How you doing?
Good to see you. How are you?
Man, good. Wonderful.
Good. So Kemp is the head high school football coach for Kenmore and Garfield. He is the outpatient director of the Barbara M. Vassel Comprehensive Care Center of PCS. He has a master's in organizational management with a concentration in business leadership. He's the 2017 Leadership Akron class president. And most importantly, he is the father of 5 wonderful kids, with one on the way as well, and married to his wonderful wife, Stacy, for 12 years, Kemp Boyd.
Thank you. I think probably it should be in reverse order. Maybe the marriage stuff should come first, because honestly, she allows me to do all the things that I do, to be quite honest with you, and so does my kids, and they pretty much have allowed me to become kind of who I am as I function in these various roles. But obviously my most important role is being a husband and a father. So all these other things that I do outside of that is just pretty much something that I do, but not necessarily who I am, if that makes sense. So
as I was thinking about what to say with this, I was thinking, this is the most, I know this is the most important part, and that's what I was going to say. So, cool. So, I'm bringing Kemp along because he's just a nerd, just like me when it comes to leadership.
Yes.
I've been told by people to stop talking about leadership at times. We've discussed this before, and so just the depth of knowledge will be fun to just have a good chat with you. So, and I sent him a message about what we were going to talk about, and I just said, what is leadership? And so I'm going to let him just pontificate, and we're going to go down that road and see where it goes. So it is open. What is leadership? How do you see it?
Man, there's a quote actually that hangs up in our coach's office that I'd printed out. I saw it. It made a lot of sense to me. But it says, before you become a leader, really, it's all about growing yourself, your own brand, promotions, and all. It's all about, yourself and your own successes. But then it says, once you become a leader, it's all about growing others. And so for me, it's been summed up kind of in 2 words as far as when I think about leadership. There's the transactional leader, and then there's the transformational leader. And so for me, the transactional leader is that person that I'm leading for the sake of myself. I'm leading for my own self-promotion, my own self-exaltation. I'm taking, as a football coach, I'm taking these players and I'm developing them so they can win on the field to help my advancement in my own career. But the transformational coach is more focused and centered on, just like that quote says, of the building of other people, of helping other people to get to where they want to go, whether it be your players, whether it be your assistant coaches. Man, how can I help to really transform their lives so they can get to where they want to go to? And I think for me, I've chosen to be more of a transformational leader. And it may not come with the grandiose success of maybe wins and losses to begin with, or a lot of cash, or a lot of money, a lot of notoriety. But I've been able to tap in to some young men that I've coached and coaches that their lives have been transformed as a result of being a part of our program, being under my leadership. So I feel really good about that.
Yeah.
And that was something I learned. So this is a packet that I gave to every parent when I did a home visit this year before the season. And so in this packet, the very first page says my transformational purpose statement: commitment, courage, and composure, who will lead and change the world for good. And that's just, that's kind of who I am. I feel like that's my platform as a leader, because I think the responsibility that comes with being a leader is about, man, how am I growing other people? How are other people under my leadership getting better at the end of the day, not just on the field, but also off of it?
Yeah, and they would say, and we talked about this before, of who's going to take my job? Who's next up? I've heard that several times before, and I think you've told me that too. who am I preparing to take my job next? Instead of this transactional, what am I doing for myself?
Yep.
What does that look like? So this whole transformational leadership, where did that stem from? Like, how did you get there?
Man, I kind of got there, man. It's like anything. I mean, you read, you go to different trainings or clinics, and I went to one by Joe Ehrman, who wrote a book. He used to play in the NFL, and he's a brother who's saved, loves Jesus. And I went to a training that they had up at Berea in Cleveland. And he talked about the two different aspects of leadership. And he talked about, he said as a head coach or as a coach, you fit in one or two categories. You're either a transactional coach or you're a transformational coach. And he kind of broke down what both of those meant. And I'm like, man, I definitely don't fit under this one, but I more fit under this one. And so it helped to give me, I think, direction as far as, and really confirmation of the type of coach that I believe that I've been really called to be. Yeah. But now I can attach really a name to it, and say, okay, this is who I am, this is how I'm going to coach. But not only about how you're going to coach, but now when you bring in other coaches, you talk about that succession planning. You bring in other coaches that are going to have that same type of mindset. Yeah. That you're not here for yourself, that it's not about you, but it's about how you're going to speak into other people around you. And so this is something I share with our coaches. I said, hey, this is the type of coach that I am, so therefore, kind of like the whole thing with Moses and the oil running down, it's going to be what you guys are going to be about as well. Yeah. And if something that you can buy into, great, and I want you here, but if it's not, then maybe this is not the place for you. And that's got to be okay to say, because it is going to challenge people. Because I can remember when I first got into coaching, man, I thought coaching was all about yelling, fussing, and cussing, because that's kind of what I saw. Yeah. That's kind of what it was with me. But then you learn more, man, and you get wiser, and you say, hey, I kind of want to do it this way. And, and it's kind of worked for me. I think it fits with who I am as a person. So, yeah, I just want to be a transformational type of coach, man, to help transform the lives of people around me.
Okay. So when you talk about, I'm just thinking about, like, you give this to your coaches. Have you had anybody kind of challenge you on that? Or have you seen somebody who may have been more transactional as a coach then turn into a transformational coach? And how was that what did that look like? Yeah,
it was funny, starting here 3 years ago, I'm a kind of a big idea guy, big thinker guy, I want to do really big things. And I had coaches that came on with me who I think were more transactional, who wanted to win, and I'll deal with the young people later. But it was all about what can I get out of them, to help me. Yeah. And there was one coach I'm thinking about in particular who really has become a brother to me because he's allowed me to kind of mentor him in that way to say, hey, listen, this is not about you. I understand it's frustrating. I understand, hey, I don't like losing either. But at the same time, we can't look at these kids from a standpoint, these players from a perspective of what can you do for me? And if you can't do anything for me, then I'm just going to dismiss you. Yeah. Because as a coach, what I tell all my coaches is this. I said, if you tell me that a kid can't do something, understand I'm not going to fire the kid. Yeah. I'm going to fire you. Your job is to get them ready because there's something that every player can do and be developed to do. Maybe not at a certain position, but maybe over there at that position or in another capacity on the team. So I think that's what it's about being a transformational coach. I think it's about tapping into helping a player get the most out of their abilities that they have. Because everybody, all of us as people, we're all different. We all have different gifts and talents, but we got to tap into that. And so now to this day, man, he would be the guy that would take over for me if, something ever happened to me. He would be that guy that stepped in place. But I feel good about him doing that because he has learned that transformational mindset.
Yeah. And then psychologically behind that, what do you think it takes to go from a transactional to a transformational? Like within myself, like what do I have to do to prepare myself to get there?
The biggest word, man, I know that I had to face in my own right is just humility. Yeah. It's about humbling yourself to realize that, man, you ain't as good as you think you are. at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Because you ask any coach that, or any individual, whether it's a CEO, business, this, that, and the third, what they're going to tell you is the successes you have are because of the players that you have.
Yeah.
You know, the success you have in business is because you have staff or you have employees that have bought into the business model or to the mission.
Yeah.
And I think that's the one thing I had to understand. I think the first 3 years here helped me to get that because we didn't win a lot of games.
Yeah.
And I had to kind of remove myself out of it because I always thought, man, who's not going to say, man, I think I'm a pretty good coach or I can do this really well. But man, if you don't have the amount of players or the most skilled or talented players, it humbles you a little bit to kind of pull back to say, you know what, not that you're ever going to lower your expectations,
yeah.
but it is going to be a thing where it's going to cause you to kind of go in and dig deeper within yourself to say, even though we lost, what can we pull out of it that was a gain for us?
Yeah.
Whether, hey, we did a better job this game on special teams. You know, we did a better job on getting off the field, on defensively on third down. All these type of things you begin to kind of scale back when you don't win, because that's what everybody wants, right? You want to see your name up in lights and you want to see that, hey, you won and you got the W. Yeah. But sometimes getting that W, you don't focus on all the little things. And so I think psychologically I've transformed myself to say, what's the little things that we're doing right? Because if we consistently can do the little things right, then the big victories are gonna come as a result of that. So,
yeah. So within those little, I'm hearing you talk about these little things. When it comes to the overall emotional health of your team during these losses, what does that navigation look like? And I feel like part of it, from what I'm hearing and what I have knowledge as well, is you're a big picture guy and that mission really drives, right? Doesn't that drive that group or that whoever you're with?
Yeah. It's about seeing what I tell our coaches, I said, listen, we want to really raise and produce really good young men, but we want to win too.
Yeah.
So for me, that's equal. I think before I've always kind of said, oh man, let's get some really good men, and if we win, great. No, we're going to challenge ourselves to do both.
Yeah.
And so you have the big picture, but then it's also about stepping down off the big picture to kind of walk down and say, okay, this is how this is going to happen. It's going to happen through these steps. And then it's about, first of all, educating your coaches. I'm saying, hey, this is how we're going to get there. And I need you to buy into this. But then it's about really teaching your players and teaching your team to say, hey, listen, if we can continue to do the little things right. We had this conversation this week, man, so this is very perfect. And we're actually sitting in our locker room right now, and you can say that it's somewhat clean. It's cleaner than what maybe you had thought before. But I didn't allow our players to come in the locker room on Monday because I got here, man, it was a mess. You know, there was trash, and we feed our guys before we go out in the field, and there was mustard packets and just stuff everywhere. So I didn't allow them in the locker room. And so we sat outside, and I said, we're going to have, you know, this is going to be time with Coach Boyd. You know, we sat up under the tree in the shade, and it was great. And they were sitting down, Indian style, and, you know, they were just kind of listening. And I said, you know, there's some things that if we don't correct, it's not going to get us to where we want to go.
Yeah.
You know, no matter how fast we run, no matter how we jump, no matter how strong we are, no matter where we can catch and throw, if we don't do these little things, it's not going to get us to where we want to go, because the little things are discipline. Those little things are what keep you humble.
Yeah.
And it keeps you feeling and knowing that, man, I didn't do as good as I could because of this. And we talked about, I said, man, every champion has a championship locker room. So you walk in anybody's locker room that's ever won or had any success on the field or the basketball court or anywhere else, their locker room's probably immaculate. So you walk in our locker room, man, we got mustard packets. And I said, so here's the thing. When you look on the outside of a field house, the paint is chipping. It looks terrible, right?
Yeah.
But I said, when people come in, we want to show them something different. So I said, it's the same thing about us as a team. When people look on us from the outside, we're in a city school.
Yeah.
You know, so they're going to have some type of assumption about us when we walk on the field and say, oh, man, this, that, and the third. But I said, they don't know what's in the inside of us.
Yeah.
And I said, so let's continue to do these little things right, with the first thing being, hey, let's keep our locker room clean.
Yeah. And does that build up a camaraderie that's an identity, do you think?
I do think it's an identity. I think that it has to become that.
Yeah.
Because a lot of our young people, man, our players, they come and, you know, hey, let's face facts, man. They've had some challenges themselves.
Yeah.
And so you could identify, like any of us can, with the perceptions of other people. And I think that a lot of our young men have. I think we have as coaches to a certain extent. Because they say that, hey, man, that's just a city team. So, yeah, they're going to be athletic. Yeah, they're going to be fast. And they're going to be strong. But we're going to out-discipline them, or we're going to out-coach them. And so I take a lot of pride in having what I call football IQ and really teaching our coaches and our players that. So I challenge our coaches. I said, man, let's produce really smart and intelligent football players.
Yeah.
That we won't get out-coached. We won't get out-disciplined against maybe, you know, a non-city team, you know, because that is a perception.
Yeah,
you know?
And I would say, just from my own sports, and I think you would agree too, is there's a joy when it comes to knowing that you're like working through this sport and your IQ is just so high up that you're just really enjoying how things are playing out on the field, regardless of your athleticism.
Exactly.
Now, there's something, I don't know, just from my own personal experience, like I almost enjoy that more than like scoring a goal or winning or whatever. It's because it becomes more, I don't know, you can take that personally away instead of, you know, if you didn't score or whatever.
Exactly.
It's interesting. Yeah, I like this thought of this identity for your team and where that's taken you. So as far as this year with your team, let's go back here, I guess. As far as players, you said coming out of different areas, and we've talked about this a little bit, and how it's been difficult for them. How do you help them gain this discipline? Obviously, cleaning up making sure the locker room's clean, and I thought it was super interesting and awesome about you having visits during the summer with families, and you said you've never done that before except for this year, right?
Yeah, I did it this year because, you know, anytime you're merging two schools, you're going to have two different communities that have two different views of the merger.
Yeah.
You know, and both communities are proud communities who feel like, well, I don't want to lose my identity, you know, in this merger. I don't want to lose my identity to another school, and I don't want to lose my identity to this school. So what I sold, or what I really encouraged our players and also their parents, was we have a tremendous opportunity to really create our own identity. Not that you forsake or you forget about the past, because the past is kind of what has brought us here and kind of the foundation that we'll kind of leap off of, which would be great. But it is an opportunity to kind of be the first. You know, it's an opportunity to, hey, have that first win, to have that first touchdown scored. And so those are things that I think it motivates the right type of person. You know, they don't see it as, oh man, I wish it wouldn't happen, but they see it as, you know, and I think that's kind of your job as a leader, is to kind of cast this vision. To say, hey, this is the opportunity that's before us, and I would love for you, not just your child, but for you also to come with us in this, and to say, hey, I'm all on board, I'm going to be supportive to this. So I think really all credit goes to our players, man, with how they have bought in and been receptive, not only to one another, but also to this vision of, hey, this is who we're going to be. We're not going to allow anybody outside of this locker room or outside of this program dictate to us who we need to be. And I think when you do that, you empower them to say, okay, great. What does that look like? Well, you tell me what you want it to look like. And so I really give them the canvas. You know, what I do is I cast a bigger vision. Then I want them to say, whether it's through their position groups or offensive, defensively, now you tell me what you want this to look like.
Yeah, because you even have it in your packet there that you've given to them about their own personal vision and own personal goals.
Yes.
And I would be willing to bet, and I know that this is true, that because I've read it and you're gonna repeat it, I can guarantee. If you have that vision and you have a goal out in front of you, the ability to have success goes up exponentially. It's just something that, because if you have all of your players in the same, looking at the exact same vision, then there's something to go after. If there's nothing there, you can't, what are you going after?
Exactly, man. You're just kind of walking lost, you know, and you're kind of blind, and you just kind of, you're more or less just existing instead of kind of living in this and being present in it. And, we had a coaches meeting on Thursday night, and that's what we talked about on our board. And there I wrote down, kind of breaking it down, from, hey, we want to have goals in these areas. We want to have team goals, obviously, but then we want to have offensive, defensive goals. We want to have special teams goals, but also we want to have individual position group goals as well. But I challenged my coach, said, hey man, let's make scary goals. Let's make goals that are unattainable.
Love it.
Let's because I want to challenge them, because I said, hey, this is challenging me. I said, hey, I'm kind of looking at this season like, well, if we can win maybe 4 games, that'd be a good season, but do I just want to win 4 games? No, I want to win them all. I want to go to the state championship and the playoffs. So I said, let's make scary goals for our kids, and let's see what they do with it. And I said, so now what we do is we have pre and post practice meetings with our position groups, and our coaches do a really great job just because they've bought in. Is they then go over those goals after practice. Say, okay, man, here's what we did well today. We can't check this box off today because we didn't do this well. And we literally have check boxes beside each goal. So we check them off every day. Hey, this is what we did today. Team goals. This is something that one of our coaches came up with last year. He said, man, we're gonna eat. And I'm not just saying, eat like at a table and food, but the eat means effort, attitude, and technique. So we're always going to be measuring, engaging the effort of our team, their attitude towards their effort, and then the technique that they display based on what they've been coached to do. And so that's our team goal, is our eat mentality. We want to have eat mentality. And I think that goes to us as coaches too. And I challenge my coach, hey man, what was your effort like today? Did you just go through the motions because you had some other things going on? Or what was your attitude, towards what you were doing and what was expected of you?
And that's a huge part of leadership, is being able to, you've got to, and I don't want to say you're faking it at all, because you don't want to do that, but if you don't have your effort and your attitude and your you don't have all that stuff set up before you step in to lead it's already set up for failure.
And it is, and this is not just something that we do necessarily with our football team, but even with my staff at my day job. It's the same thing. What's our effort like, coming there in the morning? What's our attitude towards, because we work at a mental health clinic, and so we're having people come in, and what's my attitude towards that person that's coming in? Because that person that's coming in, they're coming in here for a reason. They need some help, and so we want to be warm and we want to be greeting those people in the right way, but at the same time, that starts with, how am I greeting my staff? How am I looking at them? Am I coming in with a great attitude, and am I coming in, hey, how you doing? How's everything going in your life? So, those things are challenging, because, one thing I understood, man, this goes back to humility, man. It's hard to be on all the time.
Oh my gosh,
It's just tough and it's difficult. But like you said, having those goals, having kind of those things written down on paper and kind of up where you can see it, it brings you back to who you are. It
settles you down. It settles you down in a way that you could see other leaders, or you're at work, right? And you're interacting with other people. If somebody else is having a rough day for whatever reason, and their effort's not there, whatever, you can challenge that person, but you can also understand why they've gotten there, because you keep yourself humble enough to know that, shoot, yesterday it was hard for me yesterday.
Yes, sir.
You know what I mean? And so it's a lot easier, and you give yourself a break. So, Kemp, it's been great. We've been having a good chat. I would love to have you on again. It's so good to talk to you about this stuff. And so, that's going to do it. If you want to contact us at theofpodcast@gmail. Have any questions for Kemp or for me, or if anybody else you want to know for a chat session, that'd be awesome. And so, thank you so much.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate you, man. Thanks a lot.
We'll chat again sometime.
Yes, sir.